The next question then for me is an international treaty worth fighting for from the point of view of civil society, from the point of view of non-governmental organizations? If you go to a conference of parties to the Framework Convention of Climate Change, and I have had the unfortunate pleasure of going to 16 conferences of parties to the Framework Convention of Climate Change, you'll see that actually civil society or observer organizations far outnumber the government delegates. You have environmentalists there, you have farmers, women's groups, youth, vegans advocating vegetarianism to save the planet, religious organizations, indigenous peoples. They're all represented at these international events. And what those events offer to them is an opportunity to ensure that their particular interests are addressed in the context of a climate change negotiating process. In other words, an international treaty opens up the international process to scrutiny by civil society from around the world in a way that a more closed negotiation, say in a G20 setting, would not do. So in that sense, the international process provides the civil society with access to information on what is going on, and therefore also an opportunity to ensure that there is balance in the agenda and how the question of climate change is addressed. To ensure that the debate is not only about mitigation, that the debate is not only about reducing emissions, but that the debate is also about adapting to the impacts of climate change, about safeguarding forestry issues, about dealing with health, about ensuring that women's rights are ensured in the context of a response. In other words, an international treaty offers civil society an opportunity to ensure that there is balance. And in that context, an international treaty approach also offers important benefits to civil society in terms of transparency. It basically puts the international process and national commitments or national action in the context of that process under an international spotlight. It helps to ensure that governments or representatives of certain groups are not playing games, which is very often the situation behind closed doors. So in other words, the international treaty process and the fact that it is open to civil society offers civil society with better access and better transparency and better capabilities to influence the international discussion that's going on. A third reason why I believe an international treaty process is important to civil society, and you have the sense by now that I like the number 3. A third reason relates to adequacy. And the adequacy point is not unique to civil society, but I think across the board, for businesses, for civil society, for governments, an international treaty process offers the opportunity to hold action that countries are committing to against the spotlight or against the backdrop of what we're actually trying to address. In other words, to ensure that the commitments that governments are making are actually measuring up to what the scientific community is telling us is necessary. And what you in fact very often hear civil society saying at conferences of parties correctly is that the current commitments of governments do not measure up to what science is telling us is necessary. So in terms of the civil society perspective on the importance or relevance of an international treaty, it's a matter of balance, it's a matter of transparency, and it's a matter of being able to judge